Hiya. Welcome to take 2 of this podcast because I fucking forgot to record it. Oh, fucking idiot. So, hi. Alfology2 podcast. It's episode number 30 something. I don't know what number episode it is. In the 30s somewhere. Early 30s. Early 30s, which I would say is like the number of like age you get to as a woman where you can become a MILF. I don't think you can be a MILF in your 20s. Obviously, technically, you can be a MILF in your 20s. You know, you can have a child and therefore be a mother, and therefore be a mother I like to fuck. But I think, yeah, in terms of traditional MILFs, that's the term. You know, you have to be in your early 30s. So this podcast has reached MILF stage in its maturity. Sorry, I don't know what that was all about. Look, last week we had Christmas episode, but it was a little bit, it's like 10 days before Christmas or 9 days before Christmas. So, you know, I thought I'd do another one because I have 2 ideas for Christmas episodes. So we're going to do 2 Christmas episodes. If you don't like Christmas, if it's not your bag, then, fuck off. But I don't fuck off really because, you know, fucking hell, I need people to listen. So I'm not just shouting out into the abyss. But yeah, so we're going to do another Christmas episode. You know, I hope you enjoyed last week. If you didn't, then hopefully this one will satisfy you. Are you? Oh no, all good. Sorry about that. I thought the episode wasn't recording. Anyway, new feature to talk about on the podcast this week. You'll notice, or you might not notice, but you will notice now. You will notice now. If you go into the description of this episode, or any episode indeed of the Alfology2 podcast, you will now find a link where you can send me a voice message. If sending me a voice message is the sort of thing you want to do, now you can do it through the app that I use to make this podcast. So just click that link and, you know, you voice message me away. You know, you're free to do that. I would like to hear from you. You know, even if it's criticism. Actually, no, don't send me criticism. I can't take it. I'm too fragile. But praise, love to hear praise. Yeah, praise be to me. Or, you know, I don't know, going forward, perhaps we could do episodes where people send me voice messages and then I don't know, I answer questions or I talk about things that listeners suggest. I don't know. That's not definitely going to happen. Just a suggestion. Maybe send me in a voice fucking thing. I don't know. Do it. Also, this podcast is listened to has been listened to in 20 countries around the world. Some of which have pretty cool accents. So I'd be very interested and delighted to hear from you if you're from, I don't know, one of these sort of more random countries around the world that listen to the podcast, like the USA or Norway or Canada or South Africa. So if you're from anywhere like that, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear your voice and your lovely accent. Anyway, that's probably a good few minutes of me talking complete fucking garbage at the start of the episode, isn't it? Which apparently listeners hate. Like it's the number one like feedback thing that podcasters get is just stop wasting time at the start of your episodes talking about fucking nothing. Get to the point. With that in mind, I will be getting to the point. So, the topic, Christmas episode 2.0. Merry Christmas, by the way. Forgot to say that at the start. Did plan to say it. Got it written on my pad. Say Merry Christmas, but didn't end up saying it, so that was dumb. Look, Merry Christmas. Christmas episode number 2. More stuff about Jesus. So I promise that for now, or for an extended period of time, there will be no more podcast episodes about Jesus because there's been a fair few. So this week we're going to be talking about what the story of the Nativity. What would that be like if it happened in 2019? So the story around the birth of Jesus. You know, what would have happened around all those circumstances if Jesus was born now in the modern era? So the actual nativity story, Mary falls asleep one day and God is in her dream and he's like, I'm going to get you preggers, mate. I'm going to put you well up the duff. But the good news is that means you're going to give birth to the Son of God. She's like, mate, I'm not married. I do have a boyfriend called Joseph, but, you are God, so maybe that's okay. But also, a bit of an issue with the whole baby deal. I'm a virgin. And he says, don't worry, I will make sure that the conception is immaculate. Which is a bit of a weird thing to say, but, immaculate conception, it happens. He plants a baby in her. He has to fuck around with the chromosomes a little bit, as mentioned in a previous episode. He has to make Jesus trans, which he does. But he does do that. And basically, there's a census going on, I think, in Bethlehem, where they are when she's ready to give birth. So everyone's staying there. All the inns and hotels are full. So they have to sleep in a stable, basically. So she gives birth in a stable, and Jesus gets put in a manger. Don't even know what a manger is, but he gets put in one with hay. The song Away in a Manger. Can't sing it, be copyright violation. But so he gives the birth in a stable. 3 wise men bring gifts. Don't know why, but they do, because they've heard that God is going to bring a baby into the world, so they bring gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I don't know what frankincense and myrrh are, but apparently they're good gifts to get a baby. Just get him a rattle or something. I don't know. Anyway, and so Jesus is then born, but the 3 wise men tell Herod, who's king, like, mate, there's this kid born, Son of God. And Herod's like, fuck's sake, I'm supposed to be powerful. Can't be having the Son of God knocking around. So let's kill everybody. Any baby under the age of 2, kill them. Right? No Son of God here. He's going to be dead. But Joseph, who's Jesus' stepdad, falls asleep, has a dream. God comes to him in the dream and says, Herod's going to kill everybody, mate. So instead of me stopping him, killing all the babies, what I'm going to do is get you to take Jesus off to Egypt until I say it's safe to come back. So that's what happens when they do. And then Jesus gets circumcised. That's pretty much the story of the Nativity, right? Oh, and the wise men follow a star to get there. Which doesn't really take into account the fact that the stars move around. Anyway, they follow a star. That's how they get there. That's the navigation system. And there are shepherds who see the star, but I don't really know what relevance the shepherds have to the story. I just know they're in nativity plays. So that's the actual story of the Nativity. Now we will go into the 2019 story of Nativity. So what happens is Mary, a woman, she comes out and she says, I'm pregnant. People go, yeah, well, who gives a toss whether you're pregnant or not? Just because you let some useless tosser blow his beans up your muff. If you got that reference, then congratulations, you understand good comedy. Just because you let some useless tosser blow his beans up your muff, that's not an achievement. No one gives a shit if you're pregnant. And she says, right, well, you'll give a shit when I tell you what's happened to me. I'm pregnant, but I am a virgin. People go, not possible. You're a slag. You've been taking it all night long. That's what would happen in 2019 if a virgin said that they were pregnant. A teenage pregnancy nightmare. And then she says, no, look, I haven't been taking it all night long. I was asleep, and God came to me in a dream and sexed me whilst I was asleep. And now I have a God baby in me. Right? So she says, I've fallen asleep. God's had sex with me while I was asleep through my dreams. He's inceptioned my dreams. And now I'm pregnant. And so obviously you have to consider that this baby is going to be the offspring of God. That's what she says. Yeah, right. So pretty crazy story, right? Newspapers are going to pick that up. The tabloids, the red tops, as we would call them in the UK. I don't know what they're called elsewhere. Sort of like the cheap media would pick that up and churn out the clickbait articles. about that. You're going mad over the teen pregnancy, even though teen pregnancy levels are lower than like pretty much they've ever been. Newspapers try to pretend that they're not. So they'll be saying fucking, teen mum says that she is the mother of the new child of God, and what a slut, basically. That's what they would say, in more words. But then again, probably not in more words because, it's right-wing shit rag media. They'd be saying, oh, look at this young person, this horrible millennial getting pregnant. Aren't they bad, millennials? That's what they'd be saying. And then there'd be a huge Twitter debate about it. There'd be a huge meltdown on the internet about whether or not that was okay. Feminists would wade in and say that you have to believe women, that we should feel sorry for Mary because, she's been raped. You can't consent to having sex while you're asleep. You cannot consent to being given a baby while you're asleep. So the feminists would rightly say that you should believe her. You can't just write it off as nonsense, which obviously would be happening. During this whole Twitter debate, people were saying she's obviously not pregnant with the Son of God, and yet the feminists who say you have to believe what women say, and no matter what she says happened in her dream, we have to consider that she was raped. You can't consent to having a baby whilst you're asleep. And obviously then there'd be the debate about slut shaming. Even if she's not carrying the Son of God, she's 16 years old. If it was in the UK, she is 16, isn't she? I'm not making that up. Mary was 16 when she has this baby. No idea. Assuming she's 16 years old, right? They say, oh, yeah, she is of the age of consent. She can make that decision for herself. And there'd be a Twitter debate about mental health. Like, okay, you can mock people for saying that they're thinking that they're carrying the Son of God. It's very easy to mock that, but potentially you need to consider Mary's mental health. It's not okay to make fun of people who are mentally ill. So maybe take her more seriously. And if she's not carrying the Son of God, and she is, mentally unwell, then perhaps we should look after her more. And then those who believe her, you have to have the debate about abortion. So people were saying, well, you've got to abort this baby. You can't just be getting pregnant from randomers in your sleep. And carrying it to term. There will be people who say that, but obviously it's the woman's choice. So Mary's like, fuck no, not doing the abortion. And this is God's child. God created this baby. I can't fucking abort the Son of God. That'd be mental. He might go like crazy and do the whole Noah 2.0. Do you have any idea what he might do? Like when God gets angry, he just kills everybody. He made Eve have periods and stuff. Imagine what he'd do if you killed his son. That being said, he was pretty nice to the Romans, wasn't he? And they killed his son, so you never know. Okay, so she's saying, okay, I'm not having the baby. And then you got probably healthcare professionals saying I'm not sure we believe her. We'd have to do the scans. We can't be carrying out medical procedures on someone who for a pregnancy which might not even exist. So Mary's like, that's fine. I'm not going in for all your tests. God is watching over me. So I'll just get a hotel and give birth in a hotel when time comes. So fuck you. Don't know why she just doesn't just do it at home, but she says, I'll get a hotel. And the health service would be like, well, okay. But just know that you can get a hotel if you like. It's all up to you. You can do your home birth, but we aren't delivering a fake baby. And if the baby is real, then we will do it. But she's like, no, fuck it. If you're not going to believe me, I'm going to get a hotel. So she goes to get a hotel, tries to check in on Christmas Eve. And they're like, obviously there's no fucking room here at this hotel. There is no room at this hotel. She's like, what? But I'm carrying the Son of God. And they're like, well, why the fuck are you giving birth in a hotel to begin with? We haven't got the facilities for that anyway. even so, we don't have any room. It's Christmas Eve, for fuck's sake. People everywhere. We're understaffed. You can't have a room at the hotels. So she's like, fucking hell, there's no room at the hotels. I'm going to give birth. What's going on? So what she does is she checks into an Airbnb. Takes out her smartphone, checks into an Airbnb. Mary goes to the Airbnb, discovers that it's not a room in someone's house at all, but a stable, and she's sleeping on hay, and there's a manger there. And she says to the host, look, I thought this was a bedroom. And they're like, yeah, well, we thought you weren't going to fucking give birth here, so, maybe you should go to a hospital for the night if you're that desperate. And she's like, nah, it's okay. I'll give birth in the stable. And to be fair, not many houses are doing Airbnb on Christmas Day, are they? You don't want some stranger waking up in your house on Christmas Day. So, the stable will have to do. That's what she says. So fair enough. Airbnb stable, Christmas Day, give birth. Water's broken. She's in there with the cows and the sheep, and she's forcing out the Son of God. So obviously now the baby has been born. That's happened. She's managed it. Screaming the place down, mind. Obviously giving birth hurts. I don't know if it would for the Son of God, but I assume so. During this time, the three wise men have heard, so they're on their way. But obviously, light pollution means that you can't follow stars anymore. No fucking joy in 2019 on following stars. So they just use Google Maps instead. It's much easier anyway. Stars move throughout the night sky, don't they, with the rotation of the Earth. So much easier just to use Google Maps. There's satellites and stuff. So makes much more sense. And obviously the Airbnb can be pinpointed on the map. So yeah, the three wise men, the three kings, they use Google Maps and they get there and they hand over their gifts. I don't know what the gifts are. I don't think you can really get too much frankincense and myrrh these days, but maybe they'll give the baby some gold. And I don't know, some little cuddly toys or, little cute little tiny shoes that babies wear. I assume that would be the gifts that modern wise men would give to a modern baby Jesus. So that's happened. We've now reached the end of the story of the Nativity, so now we need to look at the aftermath of what happened. So afterwards, Mary gets called onto Jeremy Kyle, which I know no longer exists. Jeremy Kyle, I know it doesn't exist anymore, but it's a good gag that she goes onto Jeremy Kyle and to prove whether or not the baby belongs to Joseph or God. So she does the DNA test. Joseph is not the father. Doesn't necessarily prove that it's the Son of God, but it at least proves her assertion that her boyfriend isn't the father. And then she takes the lie detector test on Jeremy Kyle. Have you ever passionately kissed a supreme being? It comes back as true that she has. So, Jeremy Kyle proves the existence of the Son of God, of Jesus' importance in history. That's probably, would fall under Jeremy Kyle's top 10 achievements, wouldn't it? Proving that God exists, being the hard-hitting, excellent journalist that he is. God, that was lovely dry bit of sarcasm, wasn't it? He's a cunt. I'll retract that. I've never met Jeremy Kyle. I don't know if he's a cunt, but he comes across as one on TV. So Jeremy Kyle has proven beyond all doubt, lie detector test and DNA, that Jesus is the Son of God. This little baby Jesus, or Jesus, or however else you want to pronounce it, Jesus. He's the Son of God. Proven by Jeremy Kyle, top investigative journalist. And so then the newspapers start getting really excited about it, start looking into it. And they say, what the fuck are shepherds and wise men doing, turning up and giving strange gifts for babies? Are they pedos? So you get the shepherds and the wise men get outed as pedophiles. You get a pedo catcher sting done by the Telegraph, where they go undercover and say, we turn up and give some gifts to this baby, in exchange for, some divine intervention in your life. And they're like, yeah, all right. And they're like, you're fucking sick, mate. You're sick. You're abusing that child to get approval from God. And as we know, God does dream sex stuff. So technically, you're using a baby to get some sex. So you're a pedo. I don't think anyone's ever called the wise men pedos before. I think this might be more controversial than I thought it was. Actually, this whole episode, it didn't seem very controversial as I was writing it, but it does seem quite controversial. I have mentioned rape and dream sex, and the wise men being pedos, and Jeremy Kyle being a cunt. So sorry if this was too controversial. It wasn't supposed to be. No controversy meant. Other than the whole thing about the nativity happening in 2019, which might be controversial in of itself for all you Christian folk, but if you're a strong Christian and you've listened to this podcast before and you're still listening, then you must be able to take it. You can't be that thin-skinned. So anyway. So Mary goes to the press. The press are very interested at this stage because it's been proven that she's the mother of the Son of God. So Mary and Joseph go and they say, look, Son of God, right? He's pretty much fucking indestructible. He wields the power of God. He has like royal prerogative powers, but for God, like supreme being powers. So we're not going to vaccinate him. No need to vaccinate him. If Jesus gets fucking rubella, then he'll just cure himself. He can cure leprosy. Or God will cure him. It doesn't fucking matter. He doesn't need a vaccine, which basically makes all Jesus' newfound followers, because obviously he would have some followers at this stage, they also stop vaccinating. So they stop. All the anti-vaxxers start following Jesus and not getting their children protected from diseases. So that is how the massacre of the innocents happens. That is, instead of Herod killing all the kids under the age of 2, they're actually killed by infectious diseases, which they're not vaccinated against. So, the stupidity of Jesus's anti-vax following has wiped out a whole generation of kids. And actually, Mary could have played that tactically better. She's told the newspapers that she's not getting Jesus vaccinated, and ended up wiping out a whole generation of kids. Obviously, Jesus is fine because he's God, so he can survive. And then, in the final sort of twist of weirdness, to prove that he's human, like he does in the Bible, like they do in the Bible, to prove that he's human, that they publicly do his circumcision. And it was it's quite well described in the Bible. So I'd imagine in 2019, the equivalent of describing something in detail would be like live streamed, which is pretty weird and fucked up, isn't it? That's basically the equivalent of what the Bible does. The Bible basically live streams his circumcision. So that's pretty messed up. So that would be what happens in 2019. So there you have it. That is the story of the Nativity in 2019. So if you're going to see a Nativity play, if you're going to look at the shepherds and, the animals and 3 wise men and Mary and Joseph and God and Jesus and yada, 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 just think that, in 2019, that's an Airbnb. The wise men are potentially pedos. Jesus then creates anti-vaxxers who kill off a whole generation of kids. And that potentially Mary was raped by God. She can't give retrospective consent. If you wake up and someone has had sex with you while you're asleep, they still basically committed that crime, didn't they? You might not want to report it, but giving somebody a baby while they're unconscious is not on. I don't know if that's not clear to anybody. That is a crime. If you try and do that, don't try that at home, sort of thing. Don't try any Bible tricks from home. If you make someone pregnant whilst they are asleep, you are a rapist. So I think God has to go under that label as well. Calling God a rapist, that's pretty fucking out there. Anyway, that's it for the podcast actually this week. I don't know how long I have no idea how long this episode was. It could have been 10 minutes, it could have been 40. Lost track of time doing that. So yeah, do send me the voice messages. Do like and get in touch over social media. That would be great if you were to do that. Keep listening. We're going to move away from the special episodes next week. And we're going to move away from Jesus stuff because I feel like I'm getting really offensive with it. So we're going to potentially move off to stranger lands. I'll come up with an idea. No break for the podcast over Christmas. I've got nothing else to do. So there will be a new episode next week. And have a good Christmas. If Christmas isn't necessarily the best time for you, then just make sure you get through it. And I will see you next week. Thank you.